Hi, instead of a book review, I'm going to go through my Conans. Now, this all 8 volumes of the Epic Collection. Now, there was originally apparently omnibus collections of these, obviously from Dark Horse, but here's the complete Epic Collection. Now, this is volume 1. So, volume 1, luckily they say volume 1 on the back, and you can see the date there, 2003 to 2005. And I have to say, I actually really loved it all the way through. It did change quite a lot, so it was one of those series that sort of, and I really preferred the earlier versions, I have to say. The artwork, the stories were really good. Kurt Busiek, you can see all the various names there, but they were still pretty amazing. And they followed a sort of similar fashion, the style, the way they did the contents there. But the stories themselves, the artwork, in certainly the first 2 or 3 volumes, the artwork was really all over the place. By the end, it sort of become it was very good. I mean, very superb, but it was sort of all uniform, I found, personally. And I liked the sort of changing of styles. So you got this great little start as well. It was sort of quite nice, telling the story as if obviously Conan was long gone. And you got there, obviously, the story's being told. And then you get Conan, of course. And the artwork was absolutely superb. I really, as soon as I got this, I thought, wow, this was something. I mean, I love the Barry Windsor-Smith, John Buscema, etc., the Marvel ones, but some really classic stories. And of course, it even has one of my favourite first stories, brilliant one, this one, Frost Giant's Daughter, absolute. But it did vary the style, so you got this sort of style, which is very unusual, and then you had a sort of scratchy style, and obviously you're not probably going to be able to find it, but it did vary. And I love the fact they included these as well, obviously the covers without the actual titles there and the banners, etc. But it did vary the stories, and it was just great. It was just wonderful to read some new stories of Conan that I'd never explored before. Oh, this is the one I was sort of thinking about. Sort of this style. Really an interesting way of doing it. Also, like, obviously some of it was done like from the pencil work as well. You know, it was sort of unusual to see it like that. And also this style as well. You had the early tales of Conan, which was absolutely brilliant. And then you had, of course, Sir John Severin's style there, which is really, really good. I love that one. There was some, and it was quite fun as well. The stories did sort of like lose a bit personally for that. But anyway, that's some great creatures as well and various stories. It was just great. I loved volume 1. And well, covered here Conan the Legend and their Conan 1 to 19. Well, this went on to the second one, The Heart of Yag-Kosar. And again, it was a very similar sort of thing. There was obviously Mike Mignola on the back there. Unfortunately, didn't have an actual one of his doing Conan. That would have been brilliant. That was just the cover. I must admit, when I got that, I thought, oh, great, we're going to have a sort of Mike Mignola Conan. Sadly, that wasn't the case. But again, it did have quite a variety of stories again. And you had there the stories all running through. And it was, of course, this was 2005 all the way through to 2007. But again, I love it. Always, of course, lots of tavern stories and things, and sort of obviously going and visiting various cities and those sort of things that, of course, there's usually some demon or beast or something. There was great stories. I mean, what a brilliant classic one there. And again, lots of variety of different art styles that I really, really liked. And there were some genuinely classic tales and all the way through the series. And again, I love this style. Was my favourite. This scratchy style. Conan obviously showing the early years, just brilliant. And again, you got Conan all the way through. And again, you had this sort of story that sort of trailed off. That sort of resolved, which I personally was disappointed by. I thought I really wanted to find out more about the character, the prince, and all that sort of, and the story there. Obviously, they did develop it later as well, which was quite nice. But I really wish they'd actually concentrated a lot more on that as well. Maybe had a completely separate series. I would have bought that because I thoroughly enjoyed that. And again, more Conan, and this was quite. Love this one, absolutely brilliant. Loved just all the artwork was just great. Certainly, and this one was a good one as well. Sort of R.E. Howard's story, which was very nicely done. I thought it was just brilliant. The Mine, and of course also things like this with the toad there. Just a lot of humour that was in the first and second ones that really, and also again lots of. And Conan, of course, doing the usual sort of things in taverns again. There's always, of course, scenes in taverns and him battling away. And, well, this was brilliant. This was the second one. Absolutely loved it. This was about the whole tales of Conan's youth, Battle of Britta, Vale, etc. Absolutely lovely. Then on to this one. Now the styles still going fairly strong. There was still sort of a variety of different styles in this. It still had that sort of scratchy style, but there was a sudden change. You could tell, and suddenly it was more a uniform style, which again was fine. But it was, I mean, some of these were just great. I absolutely love this one. Yeah, just brilliant. Great artwork all the way through, some great menaces as well. And of course, occasionally we like littering it with stories from obviously from R.E. Howard as well. So they were great to sort of see them in a slightly different light. And I'm never one for, if you do a story, Barry Windsor, that's a definitive story. I'd never think of that. Obviously, people would say, oh, the definitive story is R.E. Howard's. But even there, in 100 years, 200 years' time, I am certain that they will be doing the Conan stories. And they will, look at, I mean, just absolutely great. Old Conan there again, the storyline there. They will be doing these stories and they will have moved on in these comic books or whatever form it will be. The Conan stories will still be going, I'm certain. I hope they are anyway. But it's just great, absolutely superb all the way through this. So this is the third book. And also I love this bit. This is another thing that I think is always quite nice. Sort of like the EC style, sort of Terror Illustrated or those sort of ones. I love that sort of style. It's just done differently. Doesn't have, a comic book doesn't need to always be in a particular style. It doesn't need to be full on pages. Doesn't need, it is nice that the artist can just say, you know what, I'm going to create some. And I love this as well. There's some great sort of the introductions and all the extras. Lots of great little sort of sketches and things as well, which was brilliant. And of course, all the stories. Oh, what was this? The first woman Conan ever loved, threatened the truce of Asir, etc. And most acclaimed short stories. This was a great one. Love that one. Actually, I loved them all. I don't think there were any bad ones in the entire series. Some I prefer more. Like I say, the early ones I think I prefer more. But again, you've got Conan here. Now this is number 4. This is the Battle of Shamla Pass. And you got, and that's a nice touch. They always put, of course, all the names of all the best people involved in it as well. Boussac, and you can see obviously it changed at that point. Boussac has gone. And you've got Black Colossus was in this one. The Iron Shadows in the Moon, just great. But the styles, again, was still a bit of variety. It was probably more in the later ones that I felt that the style sort of stabilised into a particular style that didn't seem to change. But I just thought it was just great stories. Every time one came out, I just couldn't wait to get it. And that's always a good thing. And again, I love the pencil sketch style, that sort of style, just brilliant. Obviously Conan there around the fire. And again, some more just classic stories that just brilliant, absolutely classic Conan. And there are some more different styles there of artwork. So there's a variety. And they go, so you have got that story still going on, and that was a great one. That story there, just really great. I love that really dark story there, just perfect. Oh, that one's the chain. And there was still quite a lot of humour that I thoroughly enjoyed. And that's the thing in Conan. Obviously Conan is lots of brutal violence, etc. But there is still a lot of sort of running through there just to, maybe not so much for the villains who end up, there was just a scene here where obviously not a good fate for anyone. And, again, you can't beat, of course, good old jungles. Lots and lots of. I love the jungles, deserts, and those things. I'm not saying I want to be in a jungle or a desert, all those things, going through all these things, but still absolutely brilliant reading and also seeing all these lovely sort of just absolutely brilliant. These cities, finding these cities out in the middle of nowhere. Well, and again, some brilliant selection of extras there. Then we're on to this one, Horrors Beneath the Stones. Now, this one's got the Queen of the Black Coast. This is volume 5. So you've got Road of Kings and story. It's just absolutely. Now, they are bringing out the King Conan ones. I've noticed there, I think about August is the first one. So I'm looking forward to that. It'd be interesting to see. I think they were done about 2011, 2012. So they'd be really, really nice to see. So, I'm certain I'll be getting those to add to the collection. I don't know if that's it in terms of all the Dark Horse. I didn't buy them. I have to say at the time, they came. More taverns. There's like nothing better than the tavern in Conan, of course. Always, or under the water there, he's battling something there. And lots of great, and again, still But the style, the artwork did sort of at this point stabilise to my mind. But you still had some great covers, and this was a nice touch. Sometimes you don't get that in these sort of books. You get obviously you get all the writing all over it. So it's nice to get the ones with. Well, that was a lovely story as well. There's some just great stories. Oh, that was a brilliant one. And it was literally every issue, every volume of these had at least 2 or 3 really great stories that if you didn't like one, there was going to be a couple others that you would think, well, you know what, that was made buying the book really worth getting it. And it was just fun. And I love the black art as well. There, obviously nighttime artwork, always quite good. Don't know why, because in quite a lot, most comic books, I don't like when it's nighttime. With Conan, there's something about ones, and again, you obviously got lots of the sea as well, and just great stories all the way through this. I mean, this one, Argos Deception Part 3, just brilliant. So that's volume 5. Oh, The Song of Belit. Always quite a sad story, that one, of course. The way, I mean, I'm certain any Conan fan knows what happens, but it's still always quite sad. It's just somehow, I always think that they could have developed a lot more stories with this, but you know, that's the way it is. But it was a great little storyline, and oh, I love that. Oh, actually, I've been a bit unfair in many ways saying that the style of the artwork, even this, when you look at this, the artwork is still quite varied. Actually, I just felt that over time it felt like it was becoming very similar. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe it just going through this game, and again you've got great, obviously, battles of Conan. I wonder if anyone's done an account of how many people Conan killed in this. It must have been a lot. And this is another thing, the cities and things. I just love the perspective quite often when they showed these cities, and they did quite a few times with that beautiful sort of massive. And you can look at the cities and think, wow, just great. Oh, that's just, again, Belit there, the storyline is there and all the way through. And that was a lovely one. Just love that one on the with the beach as well. Just great. Sorry for anyone that hasn't read these. Lots of bits of spoilers, brief thing. Not much of a spoiler. You know what happens to Conan. He travels. That's what happens. Goes from place to place. He goes, he's a pirate, he's this, he's that. You know, if you've read any of the Conan stories, you know the general flow. He's a buccaneer, he's this, he's that. He steals things for a bit, he's master of thievery, etc. And they're just great stories. Just absolutely great stories. But this was I love this one. Volume 6, and this was a great story. Mainly Belit all the way to Belit. I'm not certain how to say that. Mind-altering power of the Yellow Lotus, etc. That was 2012 to 2014. And again, Marvel Epic. So we're nearly finished. So Shadows over Kush. And you got here again some great stuff. Yes, the art style definitely. Well, even looking at it again, there's quite a bit of variation in the art style. Maybe that's just me when I was reading it. But it's again lots of great stories there. You've got him looking for a legendary treasure, brings Conan and his comrades, and they go to all various places where horror lurks. The usual sort of stuff. That's Shadows over Kush. Now you can see obviously. The listing. So maybe, well, yeah, we got Wood. The artists are changing, but just felt the style sort of just became more and more similar. Again, maybe that was just my observation. That's not really true. But that was a good story as well. They're all good stories. And again, I say, oh, that was interesting there. That story there. I don't want to show what happens all the way through it, but there's some just brilliant Conans there. And again, you've got Conan there. Of course, again, another nighttime scene. Now, the extras, less extras by the end, actually. That was quite a gruesome end there, and that one there, Conan one. Oh, it's a bit like Doctor Strange there, I was just thinking. But they always put, of course, obviously there. So you had the end one. This was volume 7, 2014, 2015. So it goes all the way through. And finally, you get to this story. Great ending there. The Conan Chronicles conclude, which is a big clue that I think that volume 8 must be the end. No, I don't. I think that was it. 2017, 2015. I didn't get them. I bought the odd one, which is weird because I love Conan. So I don't know. But this one is the... other stories, Numidian princess lures into the remote island of Kapoor, the monstrous devil in iron. You've also got Turanian hunters, etc. And again, some really great artwork. Very similar style, the way they've laid it out, which is nice. A nice consistent style. So you got there all the way through. You can see there part 4, part 5, part 6, Devil in the Iron, and also the one A Witch Shall Be Born. And again, it's nice to be able to get the ones, the John Buscema ones, Barry Windsor Smith, etc. And you can then sort of look at them and compare how they've done them. And of course, recently there's some French volumes as well. So you've got even more variety there. Of course, the famous scene of with Conan there. So you've got just great stories. I love the use of all the, obviously the maps and things as well in there. They're just brilliant. Oh, I better turn that. I don't want to ruin that scene. And again, lots of violence. It's violent all the way through. If you're not into the violent, these sort of violent things, Conan is probably not going to be for, I mean, but it's just, you've got, of course, Conan there battling away. But what a great series. Just brilliant. So there, this one's Conan the Avenger, that changed the title. So Conan the Avenger 2025, Conan the Slayer 1 to 12. And that was it, 2017. So run through of all the Conans. Lots of great stories. They all had approximately some extras. Some had extras. Unfortunately, they didn't have page numbers all the way through consistently, but I think there was about 450 each page, so 450, so you're talking probably 900, you're talking quite a few thousands of pages of absolutely brilliant Conan stories. Really worth checking out these, and they should be still all relatively available. I would say the Conan ones, you should be able to pick. Personally, I love this one, favourite one, and also the first 1 or 2 I really loved, but the others are very good, and I'm certain I will be rereading them many times. The sort of books that you just pick off the shelf, you know what, I'm going to read that story, and really good. So I say King Conan's coming out soon at some point, I believe about August. I noticed it was Hour of the Dragon, etc. That's obviously going to be a long one as well, so that'd be interesting to see. So oh yeah, Return to Salmiria, that was good. That was a good storyline as well. Actually, it was some great storylines all the way through. So this is my Epic Collection, volume 1 to 8. Really worth checking out. Really worth buying now before they, of course, suddenly go ridiculously impossible to get. Like, of course, the omnibus editions, etc. Because some of the Dark Horse ones I think are quite tricky to get now. So, so that's it. Epic Collection, Conan Chronicles. Totally recommended series.